Well, because it's, I think, assolutamente la più difficile partitura. I don't see any other piece in Mahler's oeuvre as complicated. Yeah, that's my approach. And there is always to any conductor a guarantee that there are many corners unresolved. Whoever performed this lead, and I did, and I will again next year, after a gap of more than 10 years, I'll go back to the lead for the other in Munich with the Barschrund. But you know, somehow the complication of his music, which moves sometimes vertically into different tempi, etc., allowed you, in one sense, for more freedom than normally in that piece. And in the other hand, things which will not remain completely resolved. And this non-solution to those questions probably are the consequence of the fact that he never heard the piece. If he would have heard the piece and learned how difficult it was to conduct and to interpret it, he might have made it somehow easier or with some more solutions. Look, jumping back to the, again, Opus 1, the Schlager, the lead. In the Urfassung, there is a Fernorchester which goes on in a complete different tempi, like it's written in 3/4 against the orchestra in 4/4. This kind of overlapping, which is extremely complicated to realize in the performance, of two different independent tempi, are happening in the orchestration of Das Lied von der Erde many times, you know, especially in the Abschied, especially in the fifth movement. And in that sense, it's fantastic, the intuition of this man to do that. In practical sense, for a conductor, extremely complicated. I hope not, because if I have my Zweifel for Das Lied von der Erde, I don't have one in every one bar even in the ninth. I think the ninth is a complete perfection of beauty, and even in his own extremes, like the climax of the first movement or other things in the later movements, I think are perfect the way they are composed. I performed the ninth a lot. As I told you, I started from the end. So the one I conducted the least is the fourth symphony, strange enough, yeah. But going back to the ninth, I think in a way there also you could see that this language was moving towards almost a Kammer Symphony of Schoenberg. He was a man like in his photos, not for laughs, but for smile. That's a major difference. And I think the irony is always provoking a smile in his music, the witty character of Mahler. Of course, in the leaders, like Lieder einer fahrenden Gesellen, you can see here and there moments of that. More clear is the Knabenwunderhorn. This is the cycle where you can see even more the search of pleasure for the moments of serenity and also wit. We call it in Italiano il sorriso. Yeah? Non la risata ma il sorriso. It was something more contained in a way. There is a new book by Gaston Fournier-Facio which shows a different kind of Mahler in many anecdotes of people or friends of his life, and how also he was full of humor and ready for jokes. This is a sort of Mahler which we don't know. And also a physical different description when he was younger, how fit he was physically, and with the muscular system and muscular structure and so on. Very interesting way of looking back to Mahler today in a different way than has been described for so many years. I think he was more than aware that he left behind him masterpieces, compositions, not just very good music. Music which was never, in the time, composed by any other colleagues. And in fact, even today, which we are discovering new music, also at the time, at the turn of the century, great, interesting. I am, for instance, extremely interested to conduct Alexander von Zemlinsky's music. But in a way, you have a friend, colleague, which was the father of a style, the man which moved in the late Romantic Sprache from the Brahmsian universe. Great. Mahler did something much, much bigger. He really went on in his own way to open up a universe of a new language. And I think that's what, to answer your question, that's what he wanted, that's what he achieved. And the biggest question is, being so young when he died, what the world of music has lost with the death of Mahler. This is the point. Because I think he was a man which had in his own brain, in his own powers, and in his own European culture, still a lot to say.